Hey guys, it's Pete from Pete from Anxiety here. Welcome in today's episode. I appreciate y'all being here so much. Let's talk about a few things real quick. The Pete vs. Anxiety Team Anxiety Facebook group. Are you a part of it? You're not? What are you waiting for? The link's down here in the description down below, or go to Facebook and search Pete vs. Anxiety. Then look for the Team Anxiety Team page and join it today. Why not? You can join and help. It'll be great. Yeah, like right now. Hurry up. Stop what you're doing, pause this video, go do it right now. But anyways, let's also talk about the Pete vs. Anxiety YouTube page. If you're here right now, you're probably following it most likely. If not, head on over there, subscribe, be sure to like and comment on the videos and let me know, because all that stuff really helps, guys. I really appreciate it. And help me break the stigma that mental health is talked about enough. But anyways, guys, let's get in today's episode. I'll have a great one. Thank you so much again. And as I always say, don't ask how your day is. Ask how your mental health is today.
Guys, welcome to another exciting episode here of Pete vs. Society here on the Oracle Talk Radio Network. My guest today is a leading expert in spiritual laws and how they affect our health, emotions, and behaviors. After 25 years in business, he uncovered a radical truth. Most pain, mental illness, sickness, and trauma aren't rooted in physical or emotional causes, but in the spiritual realm. Please welcome my guest today is Beatty Carmichael. Beatty, how you doing today, bud?
Pete, I'm doing very great. How are you doing?
Great, man. Why don't you tell everybody a little more about yourself?
Yeah, so it's really interesting. As you mentioned, I'm actually a business owner, but I come from over almost 200 years of medical doctor, 7 generations. And God brought me back into the, I don't want to call it the medical field, but the healing field, the health field, because for almost 200 years, healing was based on 3 things. It's physical, mental, or spiritual. But today we've left out the spiritual part, and we try to only diagnose with mental and physical. And a lot of times we're being misdiagnosed with the right symptom. I've got anxiety, but the wrong source. It's not chemical, it's not mental. I find about 90% of the time a lot of these mental issues are spiritual. And I'm seeing them disappear within minutes. Just by taking it through a spiritual route. So that's a quick background on me, is from business to healing, and here I am.
That's awesome, though. I mean, I got bigger into spirituality before I started this podcast and things like that. And it's hard to say that, it isn't something spiritual that's causing this to be as big as it is, because everybody being put in my path has been put there for a reason,
Yeah.
and the universe is always constantly talking to me. And I agree. I don't care for regular medicine as much. I'm looking at the alternative routes and things like that too. I think that a lot of people are sleeping on these things, and I think it's more because they don't understand them as well, and that's the great thing with the show, is to bring in people like yourself that can come in and better, touch on the light of these subjects for people to better understand the things that, there's other options out there, because, everybody thinks therapy is the end all be all, but it really isn't. It's not for everybody. There's so many different things you can do out there that work better for people, that, you don't have to put yourself through that grueling process.
So it's true. I've got a friend that I go to church with. That's where I met him. And he's been on ADHD medicine since he was in grade school. Then that got him into depression. So now he's been on depression medicine, 40 milligrams when the max was 20. And then they put him on sleep meds. And now he's off all of them, and he's thinking clearer. He's operating better. He's actually able to read. He texted me recently, said, "I've read 78 pages in this book." He was so excited. But all these meds, think about this, Pete. I don't know if you know the stats, but in just the last 20 years, the percentage of Americans on prescription psychiatric meds has increased 70%. Right now, about 66 million Americans are on psychiatric meds, but they're not getting better. And it's creating problems. And you get on one, then you get on another, then you have to get on another. And the question is why? It's really cool. I was doing a show recently, and it was on a mental health show. And this guy has been struggling for 26 years with heavy anxiety, heavy depression, going through all the therapy stuff, nothing worked. And I guided him through this thing that I created called the Prayer of Freedom, there on the show. And it all instantly leaves. In fact, he was saying, it's going down. It's from an 8, now it's a 3, now it's gone. Yeah. First time in 20, and when you just treat it spiritually, you'll find a lot of these things disappear.
Yeah, it's so cool though, because it's proof right there that it works. Because you'll always get those people that are skeptic, and the comment about the thing about the medicine is, it's just, I always make comments about that too, because it's like, you ever listen to some of those commercials, some side effects are, and they just get real low. You'll hear something that shouldn't be there. It's like, well, wait a minute. Yeah. I'm not supposed to be hearing things anyways. That's the whole point of this in the first place. Well, this medicine may cause depression or suicidal thoughts. These things, and it just starts rapid firing through them, and you're just like, wait a minute, hold on, what did it just say to me? And if you look at the side effects, God, dude, some of them are just horrible, especially psych meds, man, because then one feeds the other, and it's just a vicious cycle.
It's a spiral down, and the
Yeah.
only way to correct it is to get to the source rather than keep. You get one med to counteract the effects of
Yeah.
another med, and that creates, and it's just it's a horrible thing.
It is, but you got to remember, people don't know more than that. A lot of people
That's
don't
it.
take the
Yeah.
time to look into these things and kind of expand their knowledge. Because my wife was the same way. She was taking all those meds, and she stopped too. She was like, I can't do this anymore, man. It just makes me feel like a zombie, And I'm like, yeah, I agree, man. It's like, if you're not yourself, then what's the point of taking these things? Like, I think a lot of times they guess at what they're doing, and it's like, oh, well, we're gonna just give you all this stuff and see what happens. And it's like, no, I'm good, thanks. I don't want any of those side effects, man. I'm great. Mm-mm.
It's interesting. My father-in-law is deceased now, but he practiced. He was an internist for 50 years. And he would always sit down his patients and say, health is based on mental, physical, and spiritual.
Yeah.
And those are the three legs of the healthcare stool. But what medicine has done is they've taken out the spiritual, so now you have a stool that only stands on two legs, and it won't stand. And the doctors today have never been taught the spiritual side. And because of that, I can't blame them. It's just the way the system has come about. We think that science and drugs can cure everything. I was watching a commercial on TV, and it was about eczema. If you have eczema, we got this new drug. Contact your physician, and it'll take about a year, and it'll bring the results down. And I was thinking, I remember working with a lady who had eczema, and it all disappeared in about 5 minutes just by treating it spiritually. And actually, what's interesting, you'll find that a lot of this stuff, not everything, but I've seen so many things disappear that medical science has been said is incurable. Rheumatoid arthritis, glaucoma type of eyesight issues, eczema, and anxiety, simply by forgiving someone. Because unforgiveness is a spiritual issue, and you forgive them, and it's like there's a spiritual torment that comes into us and manifests as these things, because what this universe is wanting us to do is simply get rid of the root that's on the spiritual side. It's been a really fascinating journey for me.
Oh yeah, so it sounds like, for sure, man. I believe it too. So the things that since day one I started this show to where I'm at now, if I would have told you half the conversations I would have had, I probably would have laughed. I'm like, there's no way in hell you're having these conversations, because my views on a lot of things have changed since day one. Like I knew nothing about alternative medicine, and now I know so much more, and it's been great, And I've done energy healing sessions and things like that too, and I feel amazing afterwards. Like, it's been the greatest experience ever. I didn't need medicine to fix it because it wasn't needed there.
Hey, let me ask you. This is are you? So I know you've gone through a lot. Do you still have any residual issues of anything like anxiety or depression or anything that
I deal with
hovers
anxiety
around?
here and there. It
Okay.
just kind of depends, and it's more my brain locks into certain things. But I've gotten better at handling it. It's not as bad as bad. But like I said, though, I did an energy hearing session recently, and it seems like it's gotten way better too. Like, afterwards, it was just instantly, I felt better. Like, I
Yeah.
noticed the minute it happened that something was just like, it was different. I didn't feel the same way. And I've been feeling great since then too. And it was just like, it's so fascinating, because when we were doing it, she was talking about how something had attached to me spiritually. And that's what it was. It locked on you. And it was like, what
Yep.
did she say? It was like a tentacle type creature type thing. It was
Yeah.
really interesting how she explained it to me. But I was like, yeah, okay. And mind
So
you, the whole time I didn't tell her any of this stuff either. She was telling me things that I've never told her. And I'm just like, this is so fascinating.
it really is. So that tentacle aspect, let me share what I've learned, okay? And this is I'll call it human terms to try to understand what's going on in the spiritual side. But when we have a trauma, like what happened with this gentleman I was talking about on the show, I was asking him, he's 41, 42 years old, somewhere there. And I was asking him, how long have you had your anxiety and depression? He said it was since 14 years old. I said, what happened around that age that happened when you started to get this? Because there's usually a cause. And he said it was something his mother did that she wouldn't allow him as a 14-year-old to do. And so it really just kind of crushed him. And so we went back to that point in time. And I simply had him, for that case, forgive his mother. And what
Yeah.
happens is when we go through these traumas, we have fear, we have anxiety, we get depressed. Those tentacles you're talking about, I call it it's a dark energy source that comes in the spiritual realm, and it attaches to us. And what it does is it amplifies that issue in our life. So we're always afraid, always anxious, or we're always depressed, or their combination. Now we're starting to get bipolar because, which one is it? And they're both kind of amplifying everything. But if you eliminate that source in the spiritual side of things, then all of its amplification goes. And that's what happened with him. He felt physically all those things just literally go down to zero. It was the first time in 26 years he had never had it. I was doing another show as we were speaking on anxiety, and it was a dark show. It was like social disruption or something. And I was talking about the dark side of the spiritual side of things where we operate, because we're spirit and physical. And I was demonstrating this on the show, and I said, do you have anything that you would like to get rid of? She said, yes, I've been dealing with anxiety for decades. So I led her in this process on the show, and she starts to weep. And it takes her 2 or 3 minutes to recover, because it was the first time in decades she's been without her anxiety. And it happened, and she didn't share much, but she said there was some trauma in my life years back that I would never even verbalize. It was so bad.
Yeah.
And simply getting it out, verbalizing it, eliminated that spiritual root, and it just instantly disappeared.
Yeah, I think there is something maybe you can help me with. I have a problem. Okay, my mother abandoned me when I was 10,
Uh-huh.
and I for the life of me, I cannot just let go of it. I don't know what it is. And for whatever reason, I'm so attached to it that like she wants to have a relationship now, but I'm like, I don't know, because I'm so stuck on that issue. Because a lot of times when things happen, I'll flash back to that moment of when it happens, like not the exact moment, but the same feeling I had at
Yeah.
that time. So
That's natural. So yeah, be happy to. So we can do two things.
okay.
I can guide you through the live demonstration part, or after the show, I can give you just kind of the simple process, and you can do it on your own after the
Well,
show.
we can do it right now. Let's do it right now for everybody here. Let's
Okay, great. I love it.
Let's do it.
All right, perfect. So measure the feeling. So this works on the live show
Okay.
when you can actually feel it on a 0 to 10 scale, 10 being worse. I'm assuming this is an anxiety that you're dealing with.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. It is. It's actually an issue. When I get in the moment, it's like I feel like the minute I feel somebody's gonna abandon me, I get into a complete state of panic. My anxiety
Yeah.
shoots up, and
Okay.
it's just like that. I flash back to that moment, but I don't really visually see the moment. I know what happened, and my body remembers what happened. So it's just
Okay.
something I can't get past.
Yeah.
I've been
It's that
struggling
spiritual
with.
thing, and it's still holding
Yeah.
on. So we're going to be able to get rid of it. So right now, as we're talking here, what level do you feel it at?
About an 8.
Okay, good. That's where I want. So it's definitely noticeable. So let me give you a little education on what we're about to do, and then
Okay.
I'm going to guide you through this, okay?
Definitely.
So there's a universe, there's a consciousness, a higher power, a God, whatever term we all use different terms, but we're pointing to the same thing, right? Something out there that created us.
Yeah.
I call him God, and you call him universe, and someone else calls him consciousness. It's all the same. And what happens is he is put into when he built us and created us, he created us with a conscience, and he writes his standards of good and bad, right and wrong in our conscience. So this is why when we violate our conscience, then we feel guilty, and we don't even realize that we are doing something. We've never been taught to be guilty. We just know that I'm guilty. I did something wrong. Okay, so this is his way of creating a process to keep all humans in a pretty much where they operate well together, and it's not just chaos. When we violate that, it opens a door for a dark energy. I call them spirits. Other people call them dark energy. So I call it a dark energy spirit, right? A dark energy spirit to come in and amplify those things that we violated, with the whole purpose of us saying, I'm sorry and I confess that I'm wrong. If we were to put this in human terms, here's how it works. I have a daughter. When she was little, she would be disobeying. I would put her in timeout, and then she would say, Daddy, I'm sorry, I was wrong. And I say, oh, honey, I love you. It's time to get out of timeout and go play again. In other words, she's in timeout to come to the conviction to confess that she was wrong. And that's all I'm looking for is a heart change, okay? Because the more she does that, the more I raise her to be a good adult. And that seems like what this Creator God consciousness in the universe is doing with us. So what we're going to do, the 3 steps is very simple. Number 1, we're going to ask this Creator conscious God to reveal anything that we did that violated His conscience. I call it a spiritual root. In the biblical terms, it calls it sin, because there are a lot of spiritual truths that I've been able to pinpoint very accurately biblical, not religiously, but just on the spiritual side. And so, number 1, we're going to ask Him to reveal what it is. Number 2, we're then going to confess that it was wrong. And then number 3, we're going to ask Him to remove that anxiety. Those are the 3 steps, okay? So follow after me, and just pray like this. Dear Creator God.
Dear Creator God.
I want to get rid of my anxiety.
I want to get rid of my anxiety.
If it's tied to a spiritual root that I violated, or a spiritual law I violated.
If it's tied to a spiritual root that I violated.
Or someone I need to forgive.
Or I need to forgive. Someone I need to forgive.
Bring it to my mind right now.
Bring it to my mind right now.
Okay. Now, does anything flashing cross your mind? Probably what happened with your mama.
Mm-hmm.
And anything else?
No, that's it right now.
Okay, perfect. That's what I was expecting. Okay, so now the next step is what we're going to do is we're going to do 2 things. And at this point, I'm going to, you can either keep your mic live or off, depending on how confidential this may be for you. But we're just going to say, I confess I was wrong with with my response to my mother, like fear, abandonment. I confess abandonment is wrong. And I forgive my mother for what she did to me or against me or for abandoning me. Okay? So so I confess blank that I was wrong.
I confess that I was wrong. And do I state what it is I did?
Yep.
I confess that I'm wrong, that I ate my mom's food she didn't want me to eat.
Okay, good. And then tell me what she did to you, or did she just?
She basically. Well, my mom took me and dropped me off my dad's doorstep and just left me there.
Okay, so I confess my fear of abandonment, and I renounce it.
I confess my fear of abandonment and I renounce it.
And I forgive my mother.
And I forgive my mother.
And I break all negative spiritual connections with her.
And I break all negative spiritual connections with her.
Okay, so that's step 2. And now step 3, we're just going to ask God now to remove this. And God, I ask that you remove my anxiety.
And God, I ask that you remove my anxiety.
And take it to a 0.
And take it to a 0.
And now, in the name of Creator God.
In the name of Creator God.
I speak to anxiety.
I speak to anxiety.
And I command you to leave me now.
I command you to leave me now.
Go from an 8 to a 0 right now.
Go from 8 to a 0 right now.
All right. Now, recalibrate and tell me if it's still an 8 or has it shifted.
It's shifted.
All right. Tell me what number you'd give it now.
I give it like a 1.
Perfect. Okay, so watch what just happened. We simply confessed of something in the past, violating God's standard, and we commanded it out in the authority of God, and it went from an 8 to a 1. Is it still a 1 right now? And if it is, we're going to get it to a 0.
No, it's a 0 now.
Okay.
It's so weird, but it makes sense, though. To me, it feels so much better now. I can think about it without getting the anxiety coming, too. And
right. So what happens is when we thought about in the past, because that emotion was a negative emotion, the emotion of feeling abandoned, the way the Bible term says it is perfect love cast out fear. Yeah. And so abandonment is a fear. And because we fear, what it means is we don't receive the love of this Creator being. And therefore, that is a violation. My daughter had the same thing happen with her. She'd been suffering with night terrors for 20 years. She was 23 years old. She finally came to me and said, Dad, will you help me get rid of these night terrors? I said, sure, it's real easy. When was the first time you remember being afraid? She said it was about 3 years old watching Psych with my cousin. So I led her to confess being afraid was wrong at 3 years old and break all negative connections with her cousin, Victoria.
Yeah.
And all the fear went away. And she hadn't had night terrors basically ever since. So that's how you get rid of the root. Now, what I did with you is a very simplistic form of getting straight to the problem. A lot of times, what will happen a lot of times is when people deal with anxiety, there's a lot of other issues usually going on in their life too, because when you have one issue, you've got kind of a whole outcropping of different things. And what I've started to do with the prayer of freedom is what I did is I outlined and identified 18 different places where we break these standards. And so there's a worksheet in the back that as you go through it, it starts to eliminate all of these spiritual roots in your life that's causing things like anxiety, bipolar disorder, depression, borderline personality disorder, addiction, suicidal thoughts, rheumatoid arthritis, lupus, fibromyalgia, sleep apnea, allergies, asthma, all kinds of things I've seen just totally disappear when you start handling it as a spiritual issue and putting that third leg of the stool back in. Healthcare and healthiness is mental, physical, and spiritual. And that's how this process works, very simply.
It's interesting though too, because when I was a kid, we were never really big spiritually, never really big. My mom always like had some excuse why she didn't want to go to church, and I was always curious, and it took me a while to accept faith. And I don't know what it took me so long, honestly. I think it was a lot of the naysaying, the things that you like, the negative people you run into that give you that real bad feeling about it. Like,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, I don't want to be like that. And it's nothing like that though. Whenever since I've accepted, like I said, everything is just fallen into place for me. The universe or God or whatever we want to call that entity is there. It's been putting these people in my path as I go, as I started doing this, because it was like all of a sudden I was doing another podcast and I just didn't feel like it was going the way I wanted to go. The other people weren't involved as much as I was. And I just like sat there and one day it just clicked in my brain, Pete versus Anxiety for the name of the show. And I was like, all right, cool. That's an interesting name. It's unique. And everybody loves the name of the show. And then it was like, what are we going to talk about? Well, we're going to talk about mental health. Why not? Let's see what we can explore in this topic. Because I had to deal with a lot of my own issues at first. So no, I did traditional therapy and it didn't really work for me too much. I felt like,
Yeah.
you always find somebody that it didn't feel like you were getting anywhere. I feel like you're just having a conversation in an endless circle. And it's like, yeah, I'm just paying you to basically be my friend to listen to me. I could go call my buddy in California and we could have the same conversation. You know what I'm saying? Like, but ever since I accepted faith, though, it was just like, it's hard to explain to people. Like, I've had spiritual moments too when I'm on the show. I've had somebody that come on, we were talking and she had mentioned this entity that helped her write these books was named Spirit. And it's like all of a sudden, like 30 minutes in, I just felt something wash over me. Now, I don't care what anybody says. You can see what happens to me as I'm sitting there. I stop moving for a second. I stop talking. And she's just reading this thing to me. I sit in this kind of trance-like thing. And I'm just like, oh, whoa, something's happening. Well, what's happening is everything around me completely goes silent. Like literally doesn't matter. Anything could have been. The fan was running in my head. Could have been going. I wouldn't have heard it. And I was like, whoa, this is kind of, whoa, what is this feeling? I'm just like, it wasn't like, oh God, I'm afraid. It's more like, whoa, what the heck is this? This is kind of cool. I like this. What is that feeling? And it was almost like whatever she was saying, that entity was talking to me. And it was like, it was so interesting to find out, and I've had several moments like that too. And I found, like I'm energy sensitive, which made sense. So because I could never pinpoint what it was, like that weird kind of like that. I call it my spider sense. I'm a big nerd, so I call it spider sense. It's like a spider sense. Like you have this feeling like something, but you don't know what it is. You couldn't make up you couldn't tell what it was that you were feeding off of though. But then I realized that I can read people's energy. Like I could tell within 5 minutes whether I like somebody or not. And it doesn't matter. I can have a conversation like we are now. I can tell you if I like somebody or not. I could instantly. And that's how a lot of times how I pick the people to the show too. Like I'll go and I'll sit, I'll read it, see what I feel about it, see if I like what the vibe I'm getting. I'll even go watch interviews if I have to and just go decide, okay, well, do I really like this or not? And then people just look at me weird. And, everybody to this point when I've canceled on a few people, I'm like, yeah, I just feel like our energies aren't meshing well, And I don't think anybody's really said anything else. I don't think they know what to say to that because it's like, it's just, I could just tell you, it's just a feeling I have. If I don't feel like I feel like the conversation is going to go somewhere, I'm going to just kind of regretfully, I'm like, oh, I'll be very polite, but I'm not rude at all. I tell them very respectfully. I'm like, unfortunately, I feel at this time our energies aren't mashing, or we're not. The direction of the show is going a different direction than what topic you want to discuss, kind of thing. And and it's just is what it is at that point. I'm not gonna sit there and hurt anybody's feelings. There's no point in that. There's no point in being malicious to people. You don't gain anything from that, and just yeah. Now,
You know,
20 years ago, that would have been a different Pete. He would have been like, hey, da 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 da, just start screaming things, obscenities.
that. And what's interesting is everything you're talking about is all about the spiritual side,
Yeah.
the energy, being able to kind of have a feeling about this person. Is this a good fit? We've all seen times when we meet someone and there's like this instant connection, and all of those connections, all those feelings, is simply evidence that there's a spiritual side to us that most of us are not in tune to. And that's kind of what's happened in the medical community. The medical community lost the tuning of the spiritual side. So now all they know to do is therapy, this is mental, or chemical, right? Drugs and stuff like that, which is the physical part of us. And they miss the third part, which is what you're driving on, is the spiritual aspect of being able to sense these things.
Like I said, I think it's more because it's the bad taste in your mouth you get for those certain people that just
Yeah.
like overdo it and give it a bad name. And it's like,
especially in the religious settings. There's
definitely.
That whole religious setting of you're going to hell if you don't, that type of stuff. I said, whoa,
Exactly.
wait. Because I know that because I came up in a legalistic church, and I go, whoa, where are you going with all of this stuff? Hey, can I share something really cool about this? Because I want to share kind of the range of what's going on. So I teach as a volunteer at an addiction recovery center. It's actually one of the largest addiction recovery centers in America.
Well, that's awesome.
And they house over 500 women. I've been teaching there for years. I'm one of the few men that teach. What happened, this is kind of funny, I would walk up to people at Walmart, and I found this one Walmart that's in a low-income section that God would just kind of heal. I would lead them through this type of prayer, and this creator being would just heal them. And so many of the women I walked up to were at this addiction recovery center that the management got real impressed with me and said, hey, will you come teach? So I've been teaching there for several years. And as I was writing my book, I wanted to statistically measure how effective this process is across the board, not just on anxiety, not just on chronic pain, but everything. So I had this brilliant idea. I was teaching 3 classes at the time, each class 15 to 20 ladies. And I said, hey, I want to do a test with you guys. And I started sharing about this prayer of freedom concept. So I gave them the worksheet that I now have in the back of my book. And I gave them this, the prayer process, just like I guided you in. And I said, I want you to do this entirely on your own. And I want you to measure how effective it is. So I gave each one of them I'm pulling this up, a sample. I gave them what I call an issue work guide, an issue grid. Let's see, I think you can see it there. And they filled it out with everything going on in their life. Like this one, she had darkness in her mind, heaviness, like she's carrying around a heavyweight backpack, bipolar type 1 and 2, depression, anxiety, voices in her head, arthritis in the hips, arthritis in the back, arthritis in the knees, restless leg, COPD, neuropathy, addiction to pornography, and addiction to cigarettes. So this is typical at an addiction recovery center because it's like the worst of everything. So I want to read you one story. This is a typical result. 87% of the ladies who went through this process all the way through, within 30 days, everything that they put on their list went to a 0. 87%. With a few exceptions, they had a few of those ladies had one thing still remaining, and it dropped to 1/3 the intensity it was originally. So this shows you the power of simply saying, God, I confess I was wrong. Please remove it. So here's this story I want to share. This is a thank you note that one of these ladies wrote me at that time. Her name is Catherine, and I want you to see the range of issues that she was dealing with. She said, I want to thank you for the prayer of freedom. It has changed my life. Growing up, my relationship with my mom was really tough. She was abusive, and she and my dad would drink and get into lots of fights. By the time I was in 7th grade, she said she didn't want anything to do with me and left. Very similar to you, Pete.
Jeez.
That's when life began spiraling downward. By 16 years old, I was having sex with lots of boys and started getting into drugs. That was just over 10 years ago. Before doing this prayer, I was addicted to heroin and fentanyl and meth. I had a lot of worry and stress and anxiety. On a scale of 1 to 10, they were probably an 8, just like you. I've had constant allergies and sinus headaches for years, migraines 5 out of 7 days a week, and a super heavy feeling like I was carrying around an overweight backpack every day. Life has really been difficult, but the prayer of freedom and confessing changed everything. Literally, everything is gone. No more sinus issues, all gone. No more headaches and migraines, all gone. No more heaviness, it's all gone. No more anxiety or stress or worries. Literally, on a scale of 1 to 10, they've all gone to 0. Even my addictions have gone to 0. I don't want drugs anymore. I have no urges for them anymore. And even the thought of any drug disgusts me. It's all gone. That's the power of when you start to bring in the spiritual side of health and healing. That's what can happen to so many people.
Yeah, and I think, like I said, I think too many people have that bad taste, and that's what it is. And that's the great thing about the show is that I bring in a lot of energy healers and things like that, so people understand that people do these things, and it's great, and it works. It works. I can tell you, I've done it myself, so I could give you a testimony and tell you that I've done it. It was fantastic. It was the best thing I've ever done in my life. Like, I don't know why I didn't do this sooner. I didn't know it existed until but it's like I didn't do it any sooner. And the same thing with faith. I just think that people tend to get it muddled with all the other people that are throwing too many things out there. It's like, go experience it for yourself is my best advice to people. Just go for it. Like, what more do you have to lose? Go check it out. See how you feel about it. You'll see that's not what you think it is. They're not telling you everything you're doing is a sin. It was never like that. There's people that are just overzealous that want to tell you that everything is wrong and everything you do is wrong. And it's really not like that. It's honestly not and it's a great thing is too, you can talk to them anytime. Whatever you want to call it, you can call him Jesus, you can call him Jesus, or whatever the hell you want to call him. I don't care. Whatever name you give them, you can talk to them, and they're always listening.
They are.
That's the thing I don't think people realize, and it's just like I think that a lot of people need to stop listening to everybody else and start thinking for themselves. Just start go experience it, man. Like give it a shot and see what happens. If it isn't for you, hey, listen. At the end of the day, you can say at least you gave it a shot. You know what I'm saying? Because I tried it, and it was for me. Like I don't sit there and preach to people, that's just not my thing. I don't do it. I have my own ways I do it. I'm very faithful, and things like that. Me and my wife are both very people of faith, and things like that. I went to church for the first time this past year, probably the greatest experience of my life. It was something different, and it's like I've never been there. I didn't know what to expect. So I was like, let's go for it. Why not? And and it's the same thing like this whole time the show's existed. I'm always up for anything. Like, sign me up. I'm up to try anything at this point. I'm willing to do it. And I'll come back and tell people about it. I'll be an honest opinion. I just tell people, like, I'll be honest with you. I'll tell you how it is. I don't care. I'm like, I'll just give you the straightforward facts. This is how I experience it. Now, don't take it as you'll have the same experience I do, because maybe it's just not for you. And that's okay. Cool. Hey, listen, that's great. But you did go and try it. That's better, and that's the same thing, we teach children. Though. Think about it. Hey, if you try this, hey, thank you for trying that, and I parent my youngest daughter now differently than I did their older sisters, and it's like you can't do the same thing with everybody the same way. It doesn't work that way, and things like that, and it's the same thing. It's like, hey, listen, if you try this, it's okay. You tried it. You didn't like it. All right, cool. Well, thank you so much for trying it, and for a 5-year-old, this kid is smart too. So you can ask her to do things, and you don't have to sit there and scream and yell like our parents used to do. And, it's and I like I said, that's my thing. It's like, man, just give it a shot. Like, what more do you have to lose at this point?
That's so true. The thing that hits me is I reject nothing. I may not accept it right off the bat, but I'm going to explore it. And I have learned so much more by simply not rejecting the old, the legalistic church I grew up in my early adult years. They rejected everything that didn't fit their dogma of what they said it was. And you really kind of lose sight of so many things. But once you start to reject nothing and explore it, then your eyes get opened up to so many things. And as I tell people, I've talked to some people that are very religious and say, well, I don't agree with that. I don't believe in that. I said, well, why don't you try? I mean, you're in pain, you've got anxiety, you're on these meds, whatever it is. So why don't you just try it? Because it doesn't hurt to try. But
Yeah,
what if
exactly.
it works, right? So experiment and try it and see for yourself.
I agree. No, I agree, man. Especially get away from those medicines, man. Especially all the side effects. Ugh, God,
Hey, speaking of medicines and anxiety, can I share another interesting
Yeah, go
story?
ahead. Yeah, definitely.
Can I use the name of medicines on this? I want to be
Yeah,
sensitive.
no, you're
Okay.
good. Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
you're good.
Perfect. So I want to share some of the bigger range of the spiritual stuff. At the Addiction Recovery Center is a lady named Ashlyn, and she was raped at 6 and 7 years old
Ugh,
by her dad and her uncle. So you can imagine the horrible trauma. She
that
went
poor woman.
spiraling down. She says she was officially diagnosed with anxiety, panic attacks, borderline personality disorder, and bipolar disorder at age 14. But she said, I had it long before then. And she's been battling with that. At the time that she came through my class, and she was taking 400 milligrams a day of Seroquel
Jesus.
so 200 in the morning, 200 at night. She was taking Buspirone, I think if that's pronounced right, and Zoloft. Not only that, but her 1-year-old and 3-year-old daughters had already been diagnosed with asthma and taking the inhaler, and they needed it more frequently than the doctor prescribed it. I mean, it was just really, really bad. So she goes through this process, and when I do this at the Addiction Recovery Center, I don't guide them in this. I simply give them the book, and I say, go through it on your own. So they go through that worksheet in the back. They go through the prayer portion on their own. She said when she did this that day, the next morning she woke up and everything was gone. She felt fine. She went to the psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist said, well, if you don't feel like you need the meds, let's don't take them and see what happens. So she's now completely off her meds. But the other thing that's really cool, and this is the part I want to share, is the spiritual realm. There's things that happen in our lives that now impact our children. And so when she went through this, her children instantly no longer had asthma. They no longer needed their inhalers. They were running around, jumping up and down, doing all the kinds of things that they could not have originally done. And so what happens is when Ashlyn took care of the issues in her life, those issues had manifested into her children's lives as well.
I was going to say that too.
And it all disappeared.
Yeah, I was going to say it was like it's almost like she was giving off toxic energy for everything that was going on, and the kids were having to deal with the aftermath of it and things like that too, because even at early as 4, a lot of those kids already know what's going on. They may not completely understand, but they know enough of what's going on. They could read a room really well. They may be able to tell you what they're reading, and it's what it felt like. It feels like that energy just negative spewing off her, obviously, from what she's had to deal with. That poor woman. Jesus.
It's actually a little bit more. This is really fascinating because it's not so much just being in the proximity. Let me share another story on that. So I have a friend, and she was going through a divorce. They were separated at this time.
Yeah.
Her husband of 20 years had been having affair after affair, about 20 other women in 20 years. And now they're now separated, and their teenage son is getting this horrible pain in his mouth. So they get a dentist appointment. They're about to go to the appointment. And on that same day that they're about to go to the appointment, the husband had made a list of all the women he's been sleeping with in his affairs. And he confessed that he was wrong. And as soon as he did, the pain in his teenage son's mouth disappeared. The son knew nothing about what was going on with the dad. But as soon as he had confessed that, his pain disappeared. And so what we see is the spiritual law that the Bible text talks about, that on certain types of violations of God's standards, the torment that's tied to it not only impacts us, but impacts our children as well. Mm-hmm. And so I'm seeing a lot of times as the ladies at the Addiction Recovery Center go through this process, they're seeing all kinds of behavior changes and health changes automatically happening with their children. I remember one of the ladies, she was saying, I hadn't even begun the prayer yet. I've just been making my list, and I'm feeling guilty of it, and I'm confessing I was wrong. So, oh, wow, God, I'm wrong on this. I confess. And she's saying that her children, that were just always angry at her and disobedient, all that just calmed down. And now the relationship is really, really calm. Because at the recovery center, they'll allow their little children to stay with them. So this is like, 4 and 5-year-old, 6-year-old type of children. And so it's impacting the children, even though they don't know what's happening with mom, but it's a spiritual thing that's causing these issues in their lives. And now, just like with what happened with your anxiety, the spiritual issue disappears from their life, and now those issues have disappeared as well.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I get that completely though. And I get that too with the kids as well. It makes a lot of sense to me. From all the things I've gone down, the rabbit holes I went down,
Yeah.
I've talked to guests, and I go jumping down these holes and looking into things and realizing stuff that starts making sense to me. And like I said, I'm energy sensitive, so I can feel the energy in rooms. And the other thing too is I'm an empath as well, so I have to be careful when I go to certain places because I absorb a lot of stuff. So I have to be very careful of that.
I
Because
have a friend
noticed
just
that
like that.
I went to the hospital where my wife was at last week, and I wish Lenny left. It was like I felt better, but when I went there, it didn't feel comfortable. I couldn't figure out what it was, and I didn't really think about it because the whole situation. But like every time I left, it was okay. When I was there, it was horrible because I was feeding off all that energy around me, and it's so hard, and it's hard for people that don't understand it, but it's just like it's like a pit feeling in your stomach, like you just know something isn't right.
That is
Or
fascinating. Think about this, because I'm connecting some dots. Okay.
yeah,
I have a friend that she's around people and she just absorbs all the challenges. And she hadn't understood it. And until you just said this, I never connected the dots. But I'm seeing about 90% of the people who go through the prayer freedom process getting free of not only mental illness issues, but all sorts of chronic pain issues and all sorts of chronic persistent illnesses. So think about this. You're now at the hospital and you feel you're absorbing all this negative energy. It's the same thing that probably 90% of that stuff is a spiritual negative energy root and not a medical or mental root. It's a spiritual root. And that's
yeah.
what you're absorbing. I never connected those dots. That's really cool.
It was
Thank
like
you for sharing.
I noticed it though because when I left, I felt so much better. I didn't, but I was there. It was like I could never get comfortable at all.
Yeah.
And it was like I was always always on an edge about something, and it was either her being very upset and the other people around you. And mind you, there's like we're on the 5th floor of this hospital, so God knows how many people I'm absorbing off of. So, but I just like I felt terrible going when I left. I was okay. When I came back, it was like like when I left for a little bit, my anxiety would just be going like 1,000 miles an hour. But after a little bit of being away, it felt better. I felt a lot better, when I got around the people I know, and it was like I know I'm in a safe space. I know these people here. I'm okay, things like that. And when I went back, it was just like, so stressful because you're.
Let me share it. This will be real interesting for our listeners. Here's what's going on. So you had I call it a negative, a dark energy spirit of anxiety. Okay. And it was always there. And just to confirm, it's still at a 0 right now, right? Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And out of curiosity, has it ever been on a 0 in recent years, or has it always been present somehow?
It's always been present somehow.
Yeah. So this is unusual that's a 0.
Yeah.
So what's happened is you got this dark energy spirit of anxiety, and now you get around other dark energy spirits because that's what, it's a spiritual issue with most of these health issues. And now it feeds off of all that and it gets stronger and it just riles you up in anxiety.
Yeah.
And then when you leave that presence, it's no longer absorbing the energy from the other ones, and so it dies down a little bit. That is what's happening because a lot of times, watch this. This is one of the big issues with a lot of these women at the Addiction Recovery Center is one bad relationship after another. They fall in love with someone and then it turns violent and abusive. They fall in love with someone, okay, and they keep thinking it's me, but it's not them, because what's happening is you have two people with these spiritual dark energy sources that are just flaming on both sides. And when they start to get closer together, they just explode and destroy the relationship. And it's a pattern. Anytime you see a consistent pattern in your life in any sort, always the same thing happening, always the same level of anxiety, neuropathy, pain, or if you see the pattern coming down generationally, probably your mom had been abandoned, and I don't know, but a lot of times when you have abandonment and abuse, it's a generational thing, and you see this pattern, then you know that it's a spiritual issue, and it will never cease until you handle it as a spiritual issue. Then you can stop it. But those are the things I've been seeing, is these patterns, and they inflame when you're around other people with the similar patterns, and it's just like they feed off of each other, and they cause more issues in your life.
Yeah, and to your point about the relationships, you think of it this way though, she's already giving off that toxic energy. That's what she's attracting though, because
that's what she's attracting.
That's what she's attracting, because that's what she's putting out. If you think about it, because like if you're in certain places, you'll notice that the people you bring in are attracted to your energy. The people that aren't are the people that don't. They're either negative towards you or something, or don't want to be there. Make a reason why they don't want to be there in that situation. And it at first it never made sense to me, and then when I started doing a little more discovery about energy healing and things, energy and all that other kind of stuff, it made a lot of sense, because I started realizing what was going on around me. Is it's like my energy brings in all these different people, like people I've never met before come in, and like I don't know them on a personal level, would come talk to me and tell me things that they would never tell anybody else. But there were certain people that didn't like me for no reason, which I'm like, yeah, you don't like me, okay, that's cool, it makes sense. But I didn't notice it at first, but now that I've gotten deeper into this, I've kind of started realizing, because I'm starting to notice things, I'm watching certain things, and then, the fact I'm feeling people's energy, I can tell, like if people are somebody's upset about something, I know, I can tell something's not wrong within the first few sentences of something they say, because what they're doing is when they're saying things that what they're giving off is, I can tell there's something wrong, and I can read the emotions across the room on certain people, and a lot of people that come in, I can read it too, within first few seconds talking to them, I can tell if something's wrong, and I'll ask them, hey, is something all right? And a lot of people, you'll be amazed at things that people tell you when you just ask them, hey, listen, are you doing okay? How's everything going today? And, I think I've had a few people get a little kind of skeptic first, like, wait, are you really sure you want to know? Yeah, go ahead and tell me what's up. Told me some wild stories, but I mean, it's like, and it was like I said, before I got into religion, it was a preacher that was always hanging out where I work. He'd come in all the time and I buy stuff, and he's like, you ever notice that people come up to you and tell you things that you don't think they're ever going to say to you? And it's like, you know why that is? He said, because it's it's because so authentically that you're just you. I'm like, yeah, I'm like, I treat everybody the same. I'm like, unless you give me a reason to be, have to go a different direction, I'm very mild person. I don't mind. I'm very welcoming of everybody that comes in, make everybody feel welcome, very nice, polite, how you doing? And a lot of people over time, like these people just you say hello to most days. Now we're having full on conversations, like, how's your wife doing? And everything else like that, back and forth kind of stuff too. And it's just, like I said, as I was going, I'm noticing, because it's the positive energy I'm putting out that's drawing these people in, and the other people that don't want to be there will just either just not say something to you or just walk off. And that's fine, because, more power to you. You don't want to be in this orbit. That's cool. See you later. But, like I said, I never noticed that until now, then, because I was always wondering, what that feeling was I was getting, like, all the different things I was feeling around me and stuff like that. But now I'm more in tune with it. Now I'm noticing things as I'm watching around the room, and I'm seeing things, and it's so interesting though, because before, I was so blind to everything, but now I'm more open. I can see everything around me. I'm paying more attention to certain things.
Hey, can I blow your mind a little bit more?
Yeah, let's go for it.
So let's ask a few questions first.
Yeah,
so energy comes from from the living part of who we are. Does that make sense? Okay.
Yep.
So they have an energy source because they're alive. Like a control stick doesn't have any real energy. Okay.
Yeah.
So energy is from life. Life is actually in the spirit realm. It's not in the physical realm. But the life of the spirit realm actually gives our body a life in the physical. So one of the things that the ancient Bible text that starts to speak about this spiritual stuff says that some of these dark energy sources are actually living beings that are in the spirit realm. And while it's a dark energy, it's actually a person. And one of the ancient Bible texts is called Ephesians 6:12. It says that our battle is a spiritual battle. It's not against people like you and me of flesh and blood, but persons without bodies. So we are a person in our spiritual side. The soul of us is our person. It's our mind, will, emotions, personality.
Yeah.
Then we have a body, this physical flesh and blood that we operate here. But in the spiritual warfare, a lot of it is a person, a soul without a body that then comes in and creates torment and havoc within our body. And on some occasions, I will resort to interrogating that person that's creating problems in someone. And I remember this one lady I was working with, her name was Alexis, and she had all kinds of suicidal thoughts and lots of other issues, very deep, dark stuff. So I resorted to having the Creator God force that spirit to identify itself. And I started to actually speak to the spirit. He would take over her body and speak out of her body. And I said, what is your role there? I forget his name, something like Marcus or something. And he said, my role is suicide. And what happens in the spiritual realm is the more times we break God's standard, in this case for her, it was thinking about suicide and thinking maybe I should just kill myself, those type of thoughts. Every time that happens, it attracts another dark energy spirit of that same type. And so I was asking and interrogating this spirit, Marcus, how many other demonic spirits do you have in your kingdom there? Because what they'll do is they'll accumulate all these extra dark spirits that give him more power.
Yeah.
And he said, and it said, I have 80 to make sure she kills herself. So that's what we're dealing with. It's not just an energy source, but in a lot of times it's an actual person. It's a person with a mind, a will, and emotion to destroy us. Not every time. I found that there's three types of energy sources that I've identified in the spirit realm. One is simply an amplifier, okay? If I get afraid, it just amplifies fear.
Yeah.
If I get angry, it amplifies anger. Another type creates simply pain, okay? Or some sort of infirmity, like on a show just 2 days ago, maybe 3. This lady was dealing with neuropathy for 15 years. And like you, it was a level of about an 8. She went through this process. It was tied to unforgiveness. She forgave someone from 15 years ago. You can see the 15 years ago versus it's been there 15 years. And instantly the neuropathy left. So you have a spirit that creates pain and sickness. And then you have this darker, deeper level energy source that the Bible text calls a demonic spirit, which is an actual person, a being that will actually come in and inhabit and create havoc in your life, causing you to do things that you don't want to do. And this is what happens with addicts all the time. Addiction is one of these type spirits. And they'll say, I don't want to take drugs. I didn't want to keep doing it, but I couldn't stop. I didn't want to take another drink, but I couldn't stop. It's like something inside of them was driving them. Mm-hmm. And that, in a lot of times, is what we're dealing with as well.
Yeah, facts. No, I agree 100% on that one. It makes sense, though. Think about it, because, there's those people that are very toxic that just spew toxicity no matter what it is. And those are the individuals you're talking about. I've run into a few of those, and it was just like, you just watch
it's another person within them.
Mm-hmm.
I have a friend that they've been battling their marriage relationship for 12 years. They've gone through this. Everything's calmed down because what they found is that toxicity was some of these things that were in them driving the toxicity. But when you get the toxicity out, everything calms down.
Right. And some people thrive on that too. Remember that now. We have those people that enjoy those toxic relationships that do those things. And then it's just... doesn't make the rest of us are just watching them self-destruct over there, and we're like, okay, well, y'all have fun giving each other that toxic energy. Have fun, it's like, I never got it. Never made sense to me. I just, But anyways, as we start wrapping up, Beatty, thank you so much for being here, man. I appreciate this. This is a great conversation. I love what you're doing. I think it's great. I think you should don't stop what you're doing. Please don't, man, because what you're doing is you're giving it a message out there for people to see that it's not what it seems, But listen, if anybody wants to reach out to you, what's the best way for them to reach out to you?
Best way to reach out to me, especially if someone is dealing with some of these issues or they have a loved one. That, by the way, you can do this on behalf of a loved one. If I wanted to, I could probably have taken that anxiety from you by going through the same process on your behalf.
Yeah.
So I would encourage you to go to the my website for the book. You'll see it right above my head visually, theprayerfreedombook.com.
Okay.
And get a copy of the book. There's some great videos and some free stuff there. And if you want to contact me directly, you can reach me at my website, BeattyCarmichael.com. You can also find me at YouTube, find me on TikTok. So BeattyCarmichael.com and the
Hey, listen, he's on TikTok, everybody. Listen to that one. Hey,
that's right. Somewhere out there on TikTok.
It always makes you laugh when people say TikTok, because you always say, when you ever mention it, some people are just like, oh, God. I'm like, listen, TikTok is not that bad if you use it to what you want it to do for you, man. There's a lot of mental health advocates that are on there. I've run into so many times and things like that, because once you start watching certain things, the algorithm starts playing it in your favor the way you want it to. And that's all it is. You got to get it to do what you want it to do. It may take it a little bit, but once it catches up, it'll start putting those people that you want right there to run into and things like that too. But thank you so much for coming, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Pete.
I enjoyed this so much, And
I did too.
You have any new books coming out anytime soon, or anything new in the works?
Nothing anytime soon.
Okay.
The Prayer Freedom book is the most important one to get out because it's the one that sets people free. Everything else is second to that.
Well, that's awesome. Listen, if you ever have another book come down, you know who to hit up, because I'm definitely down. We can talk about that one for sure.
Well, I would love to do that. Thank you so much.
All right, guys, as we wrap up this episode of Pete vs. Anxiety, you guys know where to find me. I'm on X all the way down to TikTok. I'm on Spotify all the way down to iHeartRadio. And as I always say, it costs nothing, absolutely nothing to be kind to somebody. One kind act you could do could save someone's life, or hell, you're going to make their day. I'm Pete vs. Anxiety, signing off saying, hey, don't ask your day today. Say, hey, how's your